you can benefit from being early. So I'm going to drop a quick 2 mils milk raffle. It will only last for 2 minutes, and it's going to be in the Weird Trades channel. So head over to the Weird Trades channel while you're still in here, and you've got a shot at winning 2 mils of milk for being early. So just a way of saying thanks for turning up and supporting us as we continue to do these things with you on a regular basis. So that's a little gift for saying thank you to you guys. And then, so we're back for an AMA. We are here to talk project roadmap today, and anything else, to be honest. But I know that's the clamour in the community to talk more about our roadmap and our activities and what we've been up to and what we are continuing to plan to do as we move forwards with this. The format for this is pretty open. So what we've done in the past is there is a little hand icon that you can click to request to jump up on the stage and talk to us. We've got one already in there. So it might be worth us explaining what we're up to first, and then we'll take some questions, and then we'll take some people from the audience and bring them up here. So you might just be waving to us, or you might be actually requesting to come up on stage. But what we'll do is we'll keep you in the audience for a little while as we set the scene and explain our roadmap in a bit more detail first, and then we'll give you the chance to fire that stuff in. So you can either come up on stage and talk to us in person, or you can drop a message into the AMA questions channel. So that's how we've done it in the past. So if you're, maybe your English isn't amazing, or you are shy, or you just want to, construct your thoughts, a little bit more deeply in a letter to us. So go to the AMA channel if you prefer to do it that way, AMA questions, or come and talk to us on stage. We don't bite. We don't like to shirk questions and dodge questions either. So you can come up and ask us anything. Look, we're here to help. We're here to explain what we're up to. So that is it from me. And we've got CryptoJack and we've got Ghost Breath on stage with us. Hello, guys. How are you all today? You good?
Very, very good. Slightly warm in London, but very good.
Yeah, sort of sneaky signs of summer here, aren't there, in the UK?
Yeah, sweaty back from carrying a rucksack around town. But yeah, it's starting to look like a very nice British summer.
Lovely, lovely. How are you over in South Africa, Matt?
It's it feels to me like it's the dead middle of winter, like freezing and unpleasant. And I don't think it's definitely not the middle of winter, but like it's pretty cold. So I just we like our houses and things aren't really built the same as in the UK for the cold. So because winter doesn't also last that long, like it's just kind of unpleasant and then goes away. So just dealing with that for the next 3 months, I suppose.
On a completely unrelated note, I'm dealing with the effects of a chest infection at the moment. So if I end up muting for some reason and going into a coughing fit off air, you might have to fill some dead air because it's been pretty relentless in the last few days. But I'm going to bravely battle through for you guys, the community, as we try and explain what we're up to here. So thanks for joining us, guys. We've got a team of devs as well, Mark and Mr. Zion, who can't make it today, but we certainly have their input in terms of sharing what we've got from the project team, and we will do as many questions as we can. The premise for all of this is that we did a live stream on Friday, which we called the State of the Weirdoverse, and it was almost like the extra layer of the onion. We started to peel back all the detail in the roadmap. So look, we've come a long way from where we first started with this from a philosophy point of view, and quite honestly, Web3 or NFTs has changed quite dramatically in that time as well, and our thinking's had to adapt as well. So from a project philosophy point of view, we always came at roadmaps with a degree of suspicion and circumspect approach. And by that, I mean, we always wanted to lay down a very light touch roadmap and then provide all these moments of surprise as we move forwards and start giving you, these things that we've been quietly building and working on, and then just produce them as completed items and hope that would create quite a lot of, interest in our approach and our on our execution would speak for itself, as it has done in the pre-sale process as well. We did a number of things that way, which we were very proud of. But quite honestly, the overall macro environment changed as we move forward into the mint and beyond. And obviously, we're in a slightly different place with NFT volumes, the world more broadly outside of crypto as well. And I think the sentiment around all projects has changed quite dramatically. A couple of projects obviously have rocked the trust levels and confidence of project teams, specifically referring to some scandals or suspected scandals around the likes of Azuki at the top tier as well. So things are changing in terms of community sentiment around holding project teams to account for what they're up to and what they're doing with mint funds and progress on projects. And I think that's kind of fair enough when you take a step back and look at what people are worried about. And obviously it's slightly more challenging marketplace more generally for everybody at the moment. So naturally the conversation turns to, what are you doing about it? What can you do to comfort us or reassure us that you're still here, you're still building, and you're doing the right things with our mint funds? And so that's kind of changed our approach over time. And as a result, we have been almost sort of dragged into the position that we're in today, which is talking to you in much more detailed terms around like rough ETAs of the exact things that we've been already teeing up in the previous conversations, right? So we had a first roadmap, followed by a newsletter, followed by a live stream last Friday with a PowerPoint slide deck and sort of a step-by-step approach to each of the items in more detail on the roadmap. And so that all, generally by and large has landed really well with the people that fed back to us in the community, which is super cool to hear. And we've, certainly been listening and watching channels and interacting with you guys and trying to pick up, your comments where we can and react to them and give you more clarity. One thing that has come back in that process more than once as well, I would say, is that it would be helpful if we were able to, if not give you exact dates of when things are happening, then a rough ETA. And I think, we can do that. And that's what we've been preparing for today's AMA, is to just sort of give you those buckets of rough ETAs. Now, to sort of label this exercise, it's probably worth me saying, as you know, project teams do put dates on roadmaps regularly and blow by them and miss them and have to push back due to unforeseen issues or complexities in the things that they designed or imagined. And that can create quite negative sentiment around the team's ability to execute. And I've seen it personally over and over again, even with pretty major tier projects that don't deliver within a window of expectation or a certain day or date. So we were always really cagey around giving you a certain day for one of the major roadmap items for that reason. But it doesn't mean that we can't give you a rough idea. And that's what we hope that you take from this, is that we're giving you rough ideas of when things are dropping, not please hold us to the 18th of June for this item on the roadmap, otherwise we've missed it and it's a rug. It's not that. It's just a rough idea of the timelines that we're working to as we're stood here at the foothills of all of these items, planning them. And in some cases we're not in the building phase of some of the aspects of it. So these are estimates. I think I provided a decent health warning there, and we can get right into it. But that was just to give you an idea of how we're trying to achieve this. So, look, we actually work in these sort of project boards behind the scenes, and we've drawn them all up with different time frames or buckets of time. So we've got things which we've already completed, which is like done, the done column. We've got things which are coming soon, which means within a month. So I know the NFT cliche is soon, but in this case, soon means inside a month. So in the next 4 weeks, effectively. And that could mean end of this week, right through to literally by the final day of the 4th week. That's what inside a month means, and that's why we've done it that way. Then the next phase is within 2 months. Now, here's something that I'm preempting. So if we say something's within 2 months, it doesn't necessarily mean it's definitely after 1 month, but within 2 months. It might mean it could also fall inside a month, but we're giving ourselves the opportunity to find out that there's complexities or reasons why that needs to be pushed back a little bit, which is why we've got a little bit less certainty that we can do it within 4 weeks. That might be an example. Like, here's an example. Something might take 4 to 6 weeks to develop. We can't say 100% with confidence that it will be inside a month, so we push it into within 2 months. But that doesn't mean it's going to take 8 weeks to build. So it's nuanced, this stuff. And as we get closer to some of these deadlines, we'll be talking to you on a fairly regular basis anyway. So we'll be able to update those kind of assumptions as we move forwards. This is not a one-time offer of timelines at all, but it's just sort of explaining the idea of it, really. So we've got within 2 months, and then we've got within 3 months, and then we've got within 6 months, and then after 6 months. So I think the way that we approach this is you kind of want a little bit more certainty around the near-term stuff, because Web3 moves at lightning speed. No one could even think about what's happening in 2 weeks' time, let alone 2 months' time, let alone 2 years' time in Web3. So we've put more focus and emphasis on the near-term buckets, and then beyond the 6 months, we kind of figured that the need to be precise with the community in terms of exact drop dates of things probably isn't there, so we can talk about that as we move closer in to those windows. And then we've also got a final column, which is we don't know yet, or scoping as it's more professionally called, and some of that is because we're still unclear on timelines of potential suppliers and partners that we would work with to deliver some of these roadmap items. So we might have an understanding of the timeline of work involved, but we don't know how long it will take our partner to get online and queue it up on their side, for example. So there could be stuff outside of our control if we said, okay, so roadmap item X takes us 3 weeks, but the partner isn't ready to start work for another month, and then you end up in a slightly awkward conversation around having to push that back significantly, even though we're actually estimating work rather than estimating when it's going to land on the community side. So I've probably waffled on enough there, but it was just to really sort of outline the exercise. And what we can do as well is we can probably write this down as well, so people can come back to it and give you, probably in the form of a newsletter as well, to sort of give you a bit more of a takeaway from this. We're recording this on YouTube as well, so we can share the link with you after the call. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So what have we done so far? We're not going to talk about the pre-mint things because we did a bunch of stuff that we had talked about in the presentation slides on Friday. But what we have done this week is the faction changes. So you now know that if you type defect /defect in bot commands, you can switch sides now. So you can defect from the state to the Weirdos, or Weirdos to the state, and it's going to cost you 10 mils of rat milk using MilkBot 3000's bot commands every time you do that. So that's already up and running, which is cool, and people have been using it, and I see quite a few people switching and switching back again, which maybe it's just to have a taste of the dark side, I don't know, but either way, it's pretty cool to see people playing with that tool. And it has been something that people requested a lot in the lead into the mint, so it's been on our radar for quite a while that we want to get that developed, and so it's finally here. We hope you continue to use it. It does also play an interesting dynamic in things like the faction challenge, which is running all week, which is the faction which wins the most proportional amount of rat milk per faction member. So we used to do this again in pre-sale, where we would run a weekly contest where you had to gather as much milk as you can from games, from the Milk That Rat game on the website as well, and contests and raffle bots and that sort of thing. And we'd add it all up and divide it by the number of faction members in the week. And the winner at the end of that snapshot would have an exclusive raffle for cream lists. Now, we don't have cream lists anymore, but we do have clones or Battle Royale Weirdos to give away. So what we were going to do at the end of this week is add up the scores, and then the winning faction will get to take part in very quickly after the snapshot as well, so that people are not just defecting to the winning side, is a raffle for a Battle Royale Weirdo. So we'll be able to gamify that a little bit, that faction defection tool, which is cool to see. So we've done that already. That's out in the wild. Now, inside a month, so things to expect in the next 4 weeks. We've got the banner creator, which we've talked about, I think, a few times to you now, but basically social media banners and the ability to customize them using your Weirdos and your token IDs to populate your social media profiles with banners, which is cool. Some of you have already done them for yourselves as well, which is brilliant, but we wanted to roll it out so that everyone had an easy route to flexing their best weirdos on Twitter. So that's very close to being created. We don't know the exact day yet because we want to test it and we want to make sure that there's no bugs, but it's definitely sooner rather than later within that 4-week window. We'll get that out, and then we'll also then take a step back and see if we can build additional features. We want to get a working version out to you as quickly as possible, but we want to enhance it over time as well so you can customize it more and more. But we're going to spend a bit of time thinking about that second wave of it. But again, we should be able to get some updates and changes to it within that window as well. So we'll get it to you soon, and then we'll make it better as well. Is the takeaway message there? Then we're also going to drop more newsletters so that we're giving you more progress on this stuff as we start moving forwards with conversations with suppliers. So like there's going to be newsletter 2 fairly soon as well, probably newsletter 3 as well within that month as well, just so you're sort of getting an expectation of how we're going to communicate. And they tend to be medium articles now. We've found a nice pattern there where we can write some long form stuff and drop it in announcements, and you can read that at your leisure and catch up with what we're up to. And then we've got merch choosing the final supplier or suppliers within a month. So the merch won't drop with you within a month. I think the process for this is, although can be quite quick from a shipping point of view, once we've selected the supplier and locked down the final designs and all that stuff, we need to get to that stage where we're happy with the supplier, having received samples and gone through that first stage of designs with them as well. So by the end of this period, within inside a month, we aim to have final designs which will be drawn by Ghost Breath and in conjunction with the supplier or suppliers, and we'll be selecting the range as well. So we've got a few ideas for the range that we've not shared with you in the GIFs or the screenshots from the slide deck. They were sort of indicative of what we are doing, but certainly not the full range of stuff that we are going to actually deliver. So we've got a fun couple of weeks ahead, narrowing down that list to our preferred supplier. So I'm looking forward to getting my hands on some weird merch, ideally before NFT NYC as well, so we can start rocking that on the big stage. But we'll figure out a plan for that, and that's going to be the stuff coming up in the very near term. Then within 2 months, so basically between now and 8 weeks time, roughly speaking, we've got to headline this. We've got the Rat Milk loyalty program. So Rat Milk passive earning, which we've talked about at length in the live stream and a couple of times prior to that as well. So but we're aware that this unlocks lots of other things in the roadmap, like say purchasing your special edition merch with Rat Milk, and some of the things that we've pledged around how you're going to unlock things like the graphic novel chapters, the interaction with the game, the animated shorts, and so on. So we are really doing our utmost to lead with this project as a priority so that it comes as soon as possible, because we want people to start collecting that milk on their portfolio of Battle Royale weirdos and OGs as soon as is reasonable from our side from a development point of view. But there's a little bit to do from a number of different angles. So from a tech perspective, we've got to build it, of course. We've got to scan the blockchain, because these are not necessarily straightforward things when we're talking about rewarding people who have never listed, for example. That's not a simple task to scan for and check, and then a reward on a weekly basis. So we've got to get that process quite watertight before we launch it. But we're looking at ways to bring that forward within that 2-month window as well, so that you're getting your hands on the working version of it as soon as is reasonably possible. Because as I say, the way that my mind works is that this is the precursor to all the other things in the roadmap. And it's partly why we led with it in the slide deck as well, because we understood that it would be the thing that you'd want to get your hands on first and start earning the rewards on, so you could, firstly, not feel like you were grinding, but also that you were in a place where you were comfortable in achieving the things that were coming later. So we're conscious of that and trying to get it to you as quickly as possible. Then within 2 months, we'll be hopefully getting the merch order forms out to you, and you'll be able to start choosing your pieces. We've already talked about that in the slide deck as well, that you'll be using Rat Milk to pay for your special edition merch, and you'll be using it as a like a threshold for paying for other items in the merch range as well. So we'll have that whole system set up within 2 months so that you can start to get excited about some of the samples that we'll be sharing with you in the sneak peeks in the meantime as well. Probably one of the more exciting things I think Ghost Breath will want to talk about in a minute is the cover drop NFT of the graphic novel. So he'll be working on a number of designs of the front cover, which we talked about behind the scenes. And I think we've mentioned this before, but we're talking about producing different versions of it so that we have a rarity system, which will be a randomized claim. I shouldn't use the word airdrop. It implies that you're just going to receive something in your wallet one day, but we're going to have a claim process for the front cover NFT, and it'll be on a rarity system. So Ghost Breath, you're going to be working on a variety of covers over that time, I presume, and then I don't know if you want to sort of talk about anything around that's in your mind around the graphic novel.
I mean, I suppose there's quite a lot I potentially could talk about. It. There's nothing that I particularly had in mind, but aside from it just being, it's just a super exciting thing from my side to be working on overall, especially after the last couple months with all the very linear sort of art that I've been making, and the process of saving and everything that we've kind of discussed in the last AMAs. So from that perspective, it's really a lot of fun to be able to kind of branch out into essentially all of the various things that we've discussed, and let people know, at least I'd say from an artistic point of view, being where I'm, more heavily involved. From that side, it's all super exciting for me.
I just wanted to give you a chance to talk art wherever there was a chance. So if there's any way of slipping art into the conversation, I want to throw it out to you so you can start thinking creatively. Yeah,
definitely. I think AMAs are always so fun. So it's I quite missed the ones we did pre-mints where we would kind of just do full AMAs on art. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, we need to go back to faction stories, don't we? That was a fun period of our building out of the mint. Just before we go back to the roadmap, there was a question in the AMA channel around from Dan, one of our mods, saying, is there a limit on defections? No, there's no limit on defections. As long as you've got the milk to do it, that you can do it unlimited times, and there's no cooldown on it as well. So if you wanted to hop back and forth, you're just burning 10 mils of rat milk every time you do it. So if that's how you want to spend your milk, that's entirely your call, and you can do that unlimited times and just drain your balance to zero, jumping and defecting backwards and forwards. So yeah, up to you. But we did it by design so that the 10 mils wasn't completely prohibitive from changing sides, but also gave you some pause for thought about doing it over and over again as well, right? So that's the answer there.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite a flex. Just change whenever you want. Show how much milk. But
should I try and work out how many times Austin could change factions without falling out of the top 250? That'd be quite an interesting exercise. We've got we've got a few people who can do this stuff over and over again. Whether they want to or not is up to them. But we didn't want to prohibit people at the at the lower end of the accumulation scale, should we say? So that's so we've got we've got two elements to the graphic novel, which we'll come on to in a minute. We've got the initial drop is the cover of which is going to be minted as an NFT. And then we've got the content of the graphic novel, which is coming a little bit later on the next bucket. But just moving on, within 2 months, we've also got the AI description tool coming for the clones, and we're going to use rat milk around that as well. So that's going to be cool. We've been talking about that for a little while now, but we just want to get that working completely right before we launch it, because they can be quite complicated things to come together for such a large collection. And also the one that I think a lot of people have asked us about is the allow list marketplace. Now, what we've done with this is we've broken it into 2 stages in our minds. We've got the first version of an allow list. Basically, let's go back. There's kind of 2 ways, maybe probably more ways, you can deliver an allow list marketplace. There's an internal one within Discord, which serves all the tech functionality that we want to put around it. The ability to acquire another project's allow list spot using rat milk, which I think is the premise that everyone has in their minds, like give us utility through collaborations with rat milk, right? That's kind of the premise of this, and we can do all of that within Discord in the main. We've certainly got solutions that we have either used before with partner projects. If I think about CryptoJack and some of his other work, or if I think about some other things I've seen in other project Discords as well, there are ways of delivering this stuff without using a website UI to deliver an experience. But we kind of want to ultimately end up in a place where we do have more of a public website-based allow list, because if nothing else, that provides a degree of exposure to those partners, which in turn creates more reason for those partners to want to collaborate with our project because of the exposure they receive by being part of our allow list shop, which is more publicly visible as well. Aside from anything, it's just cleaner and looks nicer, and is another reason for people to visit the website. So we were going to break that down into 2 stages, where within 2 months, we had a working version of an allow list marketplace within Discord, with bot commands and a effectively like a shop around it, with a further allow list marketplace coming via website a little bit later within 3 months. So you've got an idea of the stages involved in that. One's more complicated than the other, and we wanted to almost branch them out because from a tech delivery perspective, it's far more straightforward to give you the first version, but we'll have most of the features and the functionality that you've asked for. So that's kind of why we didn't just wait for the final solution and push it back in the roadmap timeline. Then the big one from my personal excitement levels, within 3 months, we're going to be launching Super Weirdos, which you may have picked up on in the AMA, the live stream on Friday, which is the mechanism around acquiring Battle Royale weirdos and then burning them to create a super weirdo. And I'm really, really excited about this, in part because I've got an idea of what's in Ghost Breath's brain about delivering this, and partly just because it's going to create some interesting dynamics around floor tokens, what's interesting to collect and why, and what you'd be willing to give up in order to achieve a super weirdo. So we'll help you with that decision along the way in terms of sneak peeks and designs, and you can start seeing a little bit more about what we've been teasing, because we talked about it in terms of being army generals and this super carrying the same utility and rights as an OG or a Genesis weirdo as well. So it's going to be special. It's going to have a different status to a Battle Royale token, that's for sure, which is why you have to burn 8 of them to achieve it, right? So we are thinking about the process around that from a tech perspective, and the art's already, can I say this? The art's already being sketched. I think I just did. So it's out there now. Yeah, we've got some sketches which basically Ghost Breath put some amazing stuff together for this already, which is by far from final or complete, but just it's cool. It's cool. We've got some cool super weirdos lined up for this.
Yeah, I think it's just worth saying it's something that I've been waiting such a long time, pre-creating the generative art for sort of things to start developing in that direction. So from a kind of lore perspective, it just makes sense that a lot of groundwork needs to be done on certain artistic developments, let's say. So that's kind of why there has to be some development with them.
It's really hard being tight-lipped about stuff, isn't it, when you're getting excited? That's one of the things I've always found really difficult with this. Once you get your eyes on something and you just want to tell the world, it's look, we'll do this properly. We'll do some sneak peeks and we'll get the community warmed up ahead of any decision point where you have to either acquire or burn tokens to achieve a super weirdo. So you won't be doing it blind at all, but we will leave, again, our whole sort of philosophy is provide surprises where we can. So we won't give you everything. We will give some moments of wow, hopefully on the day. So but you'll have a concept of it and an understanding of what it is that we're trying to do. And then we think that without knowing the supplier timelines for merch, we've put this delivery of it within 3 months on the basis that it might come much sooner than that, but we want to make sure that we don't run by a deadline here. So there's a possibility that this ends up being moved forwards, and I could see a world where it is if we choose the right partner. But we've always told ourselves that we want to get this right and we want to do it with quality, and we want to create items that you would actually wear and they won't fall apart, and all the basics. So we want to do that due diligence on getting the right partner, of course, and that means just baking in that time to check the samples, check their lead times, get the order all set up, and then timescales from there. But I think there's a possibility this ends up being something that we either achieve comfortably or are able to bring forwards. But don't hold me to it. You never know. But that's why it's done this way. We've sort of got timescales within a month and 2 months and 3 months on merch, because it can be quite complicated to get right. And then within 3 months, we've also got the issues 1 and 2 of the graphic novel. So in other words, the process around unlocking chapters will be live, which is a different process from just the cover, of course, because there's a whole set of different animations that are required. So within the art itself of the novel, and there's a story as well. So it's going to be exciting to start exploring the Battle Royale lore with Ghost Breath and all the things in his brain around how that shakes out and takes place. So we've got illustrations within that, which will take a fair amount of time, but something that we're very excited to do, because that's kind of going back to the roots of and the origins of what the Weirdos is about. That's exciting to me, because we've talked about Battle Royale through the collection, but not really from a storyline point of view, particularly. So the story is going to be really central to understanding what's going on in Ghost Breath's brain. And there'll be other ways of exploring that too, as we'll find out in a minute. We'll also be introducing the voting system for the top weirdos, which we've talked about before. We've got a system where we're going to start allowing you to pick your favorite characters from the Genesis and Battle Royale series, so that they have more prominent featured roles in these these areas of the brand, whether it's novels or the animated shorts or the full series as well. So we want the community consensus to vote around the favorite characters from all Weirdo series. And so when I say all Weirdo series, I do mean all, so we can give everyone a chance to have their token represented in the future of the things that we build. And yeah, we talked about the Allow List Marketplace website as well within this bucket. Then beyond that, we think the animated shorts, so within 6 months, the first animated shorts is a reasonable thing. Now we've got a bit of a don't know about this as well. The majority of the animated shorts are in what we call the scoping bucket, where we're still selecting the studio partner. I don't know if Ghost Breath wants to talk about this in a moment's time, but we've got an idea of how long these things will take from a work perspective once we're set up and in partnership and contracts signed and we're happy with who we've chosen. But it's getting to that stage that carries a bit of an unknown in terms of the time frame. So we haven't put this properly within any of the buckets, because actually we think that there's a couple of months work involved in an animated short, but the process of getting to that stage where we can say it's 2 months from now is unclear, if that makes sense. So this might be something that comes way sooner than any of us think, but we don't want to commit to that on the basis that we don't want to let you down.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good summary of that. But I'll also just, as you say, kind of add to that, because I think the differentiation between like the shorts and what we have also outlined as like the pilots would kind of extend quite differently in terms of that timeline. So although we kind of keeping it quite open at this point, the shorts themselves are not likely to, be very far in the future. Sort of looking at getting, having those released sort of in an episodic fashion. So obviously, we are able to kind of produce and release them at the same or, somewhat concurrently. So there's, just as Cheadle has kind of pointed out, that there's just that initial groundwork to cover where, finding the right partnership or just settling on the right partnership and just getting everything moving properly forward instead of sort of rushing things, I think is, the most important thing at this point. So, yeah, I think it's going to be somewhat more staggered, and we are hoping to also, as mentioned earlier, start getting things out sooner than we're actually, really outlining here. But it's there's uncontrollable variables is probably the best way to put it. That until those somewhat uncontrolled, maybe unknown, is a better way to put it. Until those are 100% known, it's quite a dubious thing to do, to put exact dates on stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to move on to a quick tangent before we finish off. I don't know, actually, let's finish off and then take questions. That's probably cleaner. So within 6 months, we've got our eyes on the game as well, which we're going to still continue to be somewhat vague on in terms of concepts and design beyond the presentation from Friday, for the simple reason that this could evolve, quite significantly from our initial concept. I think that's probably fair to admit at this stage, but we are talking to game partners on this with a view to producing something that's fun, entertaining, and not AAA. We keep saying that, not AAA. Don't expect miracles, but we want to create a blockchain-based game involving risking your rat milk and not staking it, but like placing it out there to be won and lost effectively within the game. So we've got some cool concepts around that being a battle royale, tying into the storyline as well. And I don't want to say too much more on that because I start almost tipping off some of the other elements on the roadmap if I start talking too much about what the game might be about. So stay tuned for that, because we want to hold a little bit back on that and be a bit shy on some of the detail around it. But nevertheless, it is something that we plan to do this year. That's a sort of, when I say this year, that sounds like a million miles away, but that's what the within 6 months bucket means. It's within 6 months. So beyond that, we are then focused on the final biggest piece of the Roadmap 1.0, which is the pilot of the animated series. Obviously, that's the thing, a little bit to just build on what Ghost Breath was saying there. That's the thing that would take far longer than building out a 2 to 3 minute animated short on one of the core Genesis characters or the Battle Royale story, that sort of thing. Of course it would. It's a longer episode, and it's going to have slightly different production values as well, I presume. So there's a the distinction between those in our thinking. So just to come back then on a specific question that I've just picked up on, it got my mind racing as Ghost Breath was talking. Idley in the AMA questions channel says, what's the marketing strategy here? How do we attract new members? And I'm going to have a couple of minutes on this, and maybe Crypto Jack has a view as well, but because between the two of us, we're talking about this stuff all the time. It's multifaceted. I think there's an element of this which will come from delivery. I think once we start to move forwards through this timeline and deliver some of the roadmap items and the products here, it will attract its own audience, because we'll be doing things. There'll be much more of a reason for you to tell the world that the Weirdos is producing content, and you'll be sharing that content, of course. So that will in a organic way create a degree of awareness with new buyers and new people placing their eyes on the Weirdos. We also think that there's a significant need to bring people in to help us. We have a marketing manager job spec, which we're going to be hiring as soon as we possibly can. That's an urgent priority for us right now. So from a interim perspective, we have a short-term marketing plan absent of a marketing specialist to help us with our positioning, our brand, our growth. But we are going to be focusing our efforts before they arrive on things like partnerships and building out collaborations and that sort of thing as well. So it's not to say that we're not doing anything. We're conscious of trying to grow this in a very difficult market, a market which everyone is in the main struggling in, but one which we are not willing to accept defeat on either. So we are definitely pushing forward with someone who has done this before and trying to, like I say, elevate the collection as it is without relying on the roadmap to deliver that extra awareness and eyeballs on what we're doing. Would you say that's a fair summary of the conversations you and I have had, Crypto Jack?
I think that's super fair. I guess the only other kind of two things that I might add in the short-term or tactical plan before we bring on kind of a more weighty marketing team is that firstly, one of the things that we're going to be looking at, despite the market being difficult, is experimenting across new social platforms. We have kind of we know the reports of varied success and varied types of communities that you can bring in from those platforms, but it's definitely worth an experiment and would be a great data set to have available to us once we've kind of in a position for kind of a strategic marketing lead to be in place. I guess the other really important thing to recognize right now is that in the last few weeks, we've seen kind of activity in the server, like reduced market. You'll see even from this call today, there's kind of far fewer people who are kind of listening and hearing about the kind of the exciting plans that are ahead. So a significant part of the short-term marketing strategy is baked around making sure that holders of tokens are also aware of the kind of those exciting plans and kind of understand that kind of the future impact that should have on the value that's brought to them as token holders. So while bringing in new audience is kind of a very important part of those plans, making sure that the existing holders know and have knowledge and awareness of what's going on is equally as important and could have just as big an impact on kind of the things that are interesting to the kind of the people listening to this call, like floor price. There's no doubt that there are people out there with tokens listed who have no consequence or idea of what's going on. So making sure that we're kind of over communicating, being very clear, being available to answer questions about the roadmap, super important as well.
Yeah. Let us know if that answers your question. I know where some of the sentiment for that comes from, so I'm conscious of making sure that all ties up with what you're hoping to get out of that question. Of course, we're here for as long as you want us to be. Basically, today we've just about finished the wrap up of the buckets and timelines, rough ETAs, if you will, of all of the roadmap items. Questions have started to dry up. Dan, also from our mod team, asks us, wondering if series 1, 2, and 3 will be rolled into the Battle Royale collection or will they remain separate collections? Our thinking at this stage is they will remain separate collections. So there'll always be a Genesis collection set aside from the generative, effectively. So they won't all be merged onto a single collection at any point. That's not our thinking at all. So we'll still provide all the links in official links so you can access them easily and that sort of thing. We'll always refer to that so that it's easy for people to find it, but no is the answer to that. There isn't really much else out there, so I think in the interests of the recording being easier to follow, we might wrap there. And
is there somebody in the audience next? Sorry, I just noticed a hand.
Well, they've been there from the very beginning, actually, so it's a good point. So
okay.
They're called Zach Cag. I'm just going to give them the opportunity. It might be a hand that was genuinely raised in the beginning, or it might have just been one of those ones that say hello on arrival. We had a few of those in the old days when people would come in and wave to us but didn't want to talk. So I've given them the option to come up. If they want to come and chat to us, then yeah, definitely we should stick around and have a good chat. But if not, we will head off into the early evenings of our respective time zones here. They've gone as well. I think we've scared them with the opportunity to have. Yeah. Conversation was too big. The moment was too big. I will. So what I'll do is I'll get this up on YouTube. I'll share the link in the announcements channel, and then we'll follow up most likely tomorrow at this point with a written version of the rough ETAs, so that people who are either not going to watch YouTube or have an opportunity to can do it differently, and we'll put that in the roadmap channel as well, so that everyone's got full visibility. And in the interest of over communicating, as Jack just said, we'll just keep coming back on this and finessing it as we move forward. So we'll come back to you again very soon, and hopefully we'll have more things delivered and more updates and more reasons to get excited then. So thanks very much, Ghost Breath and Crypto Jack, and it's goodbye from me, and have a great rest of your evenings, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.